Thank you all for being present for this meeting of the Electoral Board of the City of Lynchburg. This is a called meeting. Today is Monday, December 8th. We have some business. 18th. Missed a digit there. Monday, December 18th. We have some business that we did not resolve at our previous meeting this month. So that is why we are back. We are done our call to order, then we're going to therefore continue with our pledge of allegiance and the rest of the agenda. We have a flag.
Yes, over there.
Directly across behind you.
Found it.
Against the window. Thanks.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We would do introductions. I think our two members of the public probably know who everybody is here at the this side of the room, but would anyone like introductions? Okay.
We know who
We're
they
good.
are.
Oh, yeah.
We know who everybody knows everybody. This is Lynchburg. Okay. Comments from the chair. I wanted to thank everybody for being present with our presentation to City Council last week regarding moving the Fairview precinct from Fairview Christian Church to Bass Elementary. And we will have a public hearing on that. The City Council will have a public hearing on that on January 9th in council chambers, I believe at 4 p.m. So I encourage the public, particular members, people who voted Fairview to appear for that. I also want to let you know, this is my last month on the Electoral Board, which I've previously indicated. I learned today from the Circuit Court Judge's secretary that all Circuit Court judges have completed signing the order for appointment of the new board member. So I can reveal to you who it is, and he could not be present today. You may have met him at our last meeting. His name is David Levy, and he preceded me as the executive director of Virginia Legal Aid Society. He was the founding executive director in 1978, and he left that job in 1990 to go into private practice, initially in Lynchburg for several years, and then he moved to Fairfax and has practiced very successfully in Fairfax for the last 30 years, and has moved back to Lynchburg now. This year, he's still closing out his practice this month, but he's retiring from active legal practice, and now owns a house and lives here in Lynchburg. And I think you will have great confidence and enjoyment in working with David. He is not unlike me, charming, friendly, funny.
And clearly you have not told him all the stress you've been under.
I haven't told him a thing. No. And he's no dummy. Harvard undergrad, University of Virginia Law School, and he's quiet, understated, terrific, a dry sense of humor, but I think very pleasant to spend time with. So he will be here in January, and he will get, I think, sworn in later this week by the Circuit Court clerk. So I will prepare it as much as I can.
We'll be on our best behavior at the first meeting.
At the first meeting, good, all right. I'll do it too. Good. Those are the announcements, comments that I have. Next, we have the approval of the agenda and minutes. Are there any additions for today's agenda? I have none. Hearing none, we'll consider that adopted as proposed. And we also have the minutes of December 7th. Do we have any edits or changes for those minutes?
We made them online.
motion to approve those minutes, Ben?
Move to approve the minutes of December 7th.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye. Ayes, and ayes have it, and those are adopted. Is the registrar or anyone else have any announcements? Dan, that's ready for you.
Okay, registrar's report for this meeting only has 2 items on the calendar and the agenda. And then my recommendation, obviously, to follow. So leaving our business from last time was more information I need to capture on the question about what we're going to do with absentee ballots. We did have a vendor we used in this round, and I've asked them to resubmit a proposal with some minor changes. They haven't done that to date. I did make them aware that we had a pending decision the Electoral Board was going to make as of today. They actually got a little bit of extension because originally we were thinking about last week. So I think they're still interested in our business, but and I'll get into the specific details when we get down into that a little bit.
I'm sorry, Dan, which vendor was this?
This is Fort Orange Press, right? So Fort Orange Press. And the second item which we had open, which we didn't ask you to close on last time, was the upgrade of scanning equipment. The reason for the holdup on that was because it was not clear whether or not we needed to do a larger offer, larger RFP for procurement. I was talking to some other registrars about this, and they reminded me, which I had known but forgotten, that voting equipment does not fall into that rubric. There's actually an explicit exclusion in the code that says you do not need to do an RFP and have 3 different vendors or whatever. So we're able to make decisions based on what we feel is good for our locality, as opposed to somebody going to the lowest bidder. Now the vendors for this equipment, know they still need to compete with each other, because it's not guaranteed that municipalities or localities will go with them year after year. However, I think I've been pretty satisfied with our relationship with ESO, and so I'm going to put a proposal before you today to go ahead and begin to upgrade the equipment within their rubric. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about absentee ballots. If you remember from the previous meeting, I didn't include it here because I didn't want to make it too complicated. I did a comparison of what we would cost us to do an absentee ballot, initial send, based on our own, just doing it ourselves. And that was around $8,200 change maybe. So I put on our display for today, basically a bid from another vendor, a print elect, who we've used for other things, and other registrars around the state use them. And of course, Fort Orange Press. Now, like I said, they didn't actually come back with a separate bid, but I went ahead and used their invoice for us that we paid for this particular time to generate what would be the proposed price. So a couple of quick notes on this. One of the things I took away from our last absentee ballot initial send, was that my understanding at the beginning was that we would actually do better price-wise on postage by using a return mail, business reply mail permit. It turned out not to be the case, particularly because we had a much higher percentage return than would make that more cost-effective. So we did use their postage, their permits at Fort Orange Press on this particular round. And our outbound postage did get down to around 50 cents per piece on the outbound side. But what I did was I asked them, could they do 2 things for me? First thing I asked for was, can you please actually meter our reply mail at 66 cents so we don't have to pay the additional postage? If we're going to get 65% or better of a return, this actually reduces the postage cost by a considerable amount, a couple thousand, maybe nearly $2,000. So that's something that they were considering doing. It seemed like they might be amenable to do that. But the other thing I asked them for was to take their election setup charge, which as you can see is about $4,000, and reduce that. Part of the reason is because if you look across the screen on the other side, you'll see the other vendor is giving us a substantially better price on the election setup charge, which it's not clear to me why Fort Orange Press would take, that large a election setup charge and another vendor would do something substantially less. So that really, if you look at the two bottom lines, that's really that's the difference essentially. It's about $3,500 difference. And it's $3,200 difference. And it's that's basically the biggest piece of it. So and once again on the print elect bid, I told them I would like to have them meter the mail at first class on the way back. I didn't break it out into outbound and inbound. It's possible that we could use their permit and the outbound price would be less than 66, could be maybe closer to 50 like the other one. Or it's possible we could get a print only, a imprint permit, which would be the outbound and bring us down around the same price, 49 cents or 50 cents per piece. So anyway, I just to kind of round it up, I went ahead and just assumed it was all first class. And you can see that's about $3,600 for a little bit of change for that. So anyway, these are the two bottom line prices, the two totals you can see on the left-hand side for Fort Orange Press, including postage, is likely to be around $11,543. And for print elect, it's likely to be $8,301. Maybe slightly different than that, but clearly it's a substantial difference, and the largest portion of that is the election setup charge. Questions at this point on this information so far?
Where did the 5,600 first class here?
So what I did was, in order to kind of make it even, I actually, you see at the top here, I put 2,800. I just assumed 2,800 mail pieces. That was what I did the calculations against. We don't know exactly it's going to be 2,800 mail pieces, but we were 2755, I think, was the number we used for this past election. So I just, bumped it by, just rounded it up a little bit. And that's just to give a comparison where we think we'll be at. And it may be less. I mean, one of the things I'm still trying to determine is exactly how many absentee ballots will we be sending for this presidential primary, right? It may be slightly less than that, but I don't think it'll be a lot more for the presidential primary, right? Now this is not, we're not talking about the actual presidential election, right? Which could be higher, right? But anyway, this is just for this next presidential primary. Now, something to remind everyone of, that you may be aware of this or may not have forgotten it. The state will reimburse us for the presidential primary for every cost that we have in the presidential primary. This is a federal election, the state will reimburse us. So one of the things that I'm doing, besides obviously doing some of this analysis, is once we actually go to start paying bills, everything is going to get tagged that I pay for this election is going to get tagged with a code that says, oh, this was for the presidential primary. And then at the end of that, I can just take all that stuff out of the city's financial system and just say, here, you're elect, here's the cost that it had for us to actually do this election. And they will reimburse us for this. So that's good. That was a useful piece of information in my budget conversation I had this past week with the city. It was actually more favorable than I thought, maybe because I promised to keep our costs pretty flat. I don't think every other department in the city is doing that, but that's what the city manager wants. And so we did discuss the fact that we have another $100,000 that the city has allocated.
Before you move on to that, Dan.
Sure.
So do you propose to use print elect for the March primary?
Yeah, so I think coming down, when I come down to the bottom there, my proposal would be to use probably print elect instead of Fort Orange Press in this case.
Thank you.
But,
Where are they?
I'm sorry?
Where are they located?
Oh, okay, that's print elect. They actually are, well, they have a plant in Virginia. So one of the other pieces to this whole picture is Fort Orange Press, of course, injects their ballot into the mail system in New York. And I was very surprised at how long it took some of the ballots to actually get the voters. We were still getting people telling me, middle to almost end of October, gee, I didn't see my ballot yet. And so we actually had several cases where we said, well, okay, we're required to, to get you a ballot. If you don't have one, it got lost in the mail, we're gonna send you another one. And then they called me back 2 days later after we put another ballot for them in the mail and said, oh, my original ballot just showed up, what do I do now? So I had them send send one of them back, use the second one back and vote one. But I think part of the possibility is that because it was so far away in the mail system, maybe who knows how it got not in their hands very quickly. The print elect will inject them directly into our North Carolina main postal I don't know what you call it, hub, I guess it's called. Yeah, so they will do it in that location, and I'm hopeful, no guarantee, I'm hopeful that would actually produce a faster, delivery of the ballots for local people. I'm so disappointed that if you put a ballot in the mail here out of our office, I drop it in the mail stream here, it still has to go to North Carolina before it comes back here. So that's a challenge. I think that I don't know how to overcome that, but anyway.
We're all used to it.
Yeah, I mean, it's just the way the postal system works. So anyway, it seems to be like,
I'm sorry, and one more question
Sure.
about print elect.
Yep.
Have you done any reference checking?
I have. So I've actually talked to a couple of other registrars who actually use them. And they're a known vendor, and they're happy with them. One lady I talked to said, oh yeah, I don't even ask the question. I just go tell them whatever they need to do. They just do it for me. I'm like, well, that's a little too lazy for me. But clearly you trust your vendor pretty much to do what they need to do in order to get the stuff out. So.
Since we're asking questions,
Sure.
I'm looking at your postage.
Yep.
And I understand the 2,800 twice is 5,600.
Right.
So you're figuring $2 for in and out?
Yeah, so it's right, exactly. So you'd have I'm just saying, let's just say we did a first class stamp on the outbound and a first class stamp on the return, right? So that's right now, that's what 66 plus 66, right? So that's
$1.32.
Yeah, $1.32 per road, essentially, to come back. Now, the thing with this, of course, is if you're putting on every one, then you're going to waste some postage because some people are not going to return it. But at the 65% return, if that's what we get, then you're paying essentially 3 times that on the on the business reply bill, which is a surprise to me. But that's what you end up paying.
Anything above 33%, you would do better to.
Right, exactly. Right. So now we may be able to run this down a little further. Like I said, the Fort Orange Press, they did have a permit, in-print permit that allowed them to get us a little below the 66%, 66 cents, down to around 49 and change. So it puts it about $1.50. We may be able to do the same thing with print elect. I did talk about that, and they said they'd be open to that. They have their own permit, or they'd be open to us getting another permit that would allow us to send outbound. And that should get us down closer to the 50 cent from the 66. Now, remember, I'm also using 66, but actually it's going to go up to 68 next year, right? So after January, it's going to be 68. So, but this gives you.
Buy a roll of stamps now.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe it's good to invest in some stamps sooner rather than later. I should do a little calculation to see what the break point is for that.
Thank you. And
Do you recall who is using them right now?
Print elect.
No, yeah, print elect.
Appomattox is,
Appomattox is? Okay.
yes, they have used them for a very long time.
And you were very happy with them when you worked with them? Okay.
Okay, other questions on this?
No.
Okay. So let's talk about ballot scanning equipment. This is basically the same slide I showed before.
I'm sorry to interrupt again.
Yeah, no, it's okay.
So you didn't lose the next topic. I thought it sounded like a separate topic was the $100,000 the city council.
Sure, I can speak to that.
You would still want to cover that?
Sure. So I had a conversation with the city during our budget meeting, the speed budgeting meeting, which you every department head comes in and talks about the budget. I presented pretty much a flat budget for them, and they were fine with that, happy with that. But we did talk about the fact that the city council has allocated another $100,000, which isn't actually showing anywhere yet. But as we withdraw or need it, they would actually journal entry that into our accounts. So I talked to them a little bit about the next topic, which is about scanning equipment, and said, hey, I'm going to need to replace these. It doesn't have to happen, instantly, but the equipment we have now is aging, and it's not very fast. It's going to get slower as upgrades go, and eventually I say eventually, maybe within 2 years, I expect the state's going to say you have to meet this standard in order to be certified, and that this equipment will no longer take that software equipment we have now. So the question I posed to them pretty frankly, I said, well, look, honestly, I'm amenable to your suggestions to how we do this. Do you think we should begin to purchase equipment now and, be prepared for this over time? Or do you think we should just, wait a year and then bite the bullet and just do a big bang purchase? And immediately Donna Witt, the head of the finance department, came back and said, no, don't do that. Start buying it now, especially because you have $100,000 from the city council, which they expressed a willingness to give you. She said, might as well go get that and use that for this. So I wasn't anticipating her saying that, but she did. So that's why I've continued with this, this next item. And you've seen this slide before. Basically, we need to roll out some new equipment at some point. Other localities are doing this now. Actually, I just talked to it was Loudon, and they said they had a similar situation. He went to their city council or went to their budget department. And they said, yeah, just go do it. And they actually planned to do this over 2 years, and they came up with the money and they just did it all. And they've now completely upgraded their scanners. So and they're very happy with it so far. They used them. What they did was they used a bunch of them for this past election in certain locations where they had higher certain precincts that had a higher volume of people, higher voter turnout, and they were happy with that. So this is what the scanner, this is from their brochure, what the scanner looks like. Biggest difference, I think, besides just being, a faster hardware and upgraded software, bigger display. It's got built-in privacy panels, which is not something we have on our current voting equipment. It also has still got a thermal printer. Okay, so supposedly better thermal printer, but thermal printers have positives and negatives. It has a case that's integrated, so you'll notice that the whole take the mouse here. This is actually an integrated case. So today we have the soft side bags that the scanners go into. This is actually a hard case, and it's going to protect equipment better. It does go on our existing ballot boxes. However, there's an adapter. So if you know how the lids of our ballot boxes have like this kind of a chute, like that sits there. So this doesn't use that chute. As far as I can tell, it kind of goes straight down inside. And so we would have a different lid that would go on the ballot boxes that we have today. And that ballot box adapter or lid comes with the printer. So talking to the vendor, they won't charge us additionally for that. We can use our existing ballot boxes. We don't have to purchase new ballot boxes, but we would get a different lid essentially that goes with this particular unit.
Now they still take our full size 8.5 by 11 ballots.
Yes,
And that big screen is
10 inches.
to replace that little
Correct.
screen.
That's correct.
Okay.
So I think it's much more legible. Now, I worry that it's more breakable too, except that it's in a hard case now, right? So in theory, one of the problems we have with these, I think probably just about every election or every other election, we have to replace the screens on the ones we have now. And that's because people either don't put them in the soft side bag right, or even if they do, if they get kind of banged around a little bit in transit, I mean, we always seem to be replacing screens. So in theory, this will give us a better protective screen for, you know, as well as a larger screen. Questions on this?
It's well, aside from the case and the size of the screen, it's basically what we've got now.
Yes.
Just upgraded.
But upgraded with software and hardware.
Yeah.
So it's supposedly much faster. Talking to a guy from Loud, he said, yeah, it's a lot faster. So today we put a ballot in, it looked like it was ready. 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, okay, then it's green, right? You say, no, it's gonna go like that, much quicker. Like if you, I don't know if you saw our little high-speed scanner on operation, it's just that little thing in tech. It's a little, it looks like a printer, but it's just a little scanner. And that thing,
This will do the same thing.
you say this has the same. Now, you're not gonna have people standing, you know, feeding it quite that fast, right?
Yeah.
But the point is, you know, you won't have a line at the scanner. That's like the point.
And you won't have to say, wait for the light to
Right.
turn
You
green.
want to wait to
because
say that.
It'll either
Exactly.
do it or not.
Correct. You'll either spit it back out and you're right there, or it'll suck it in and you're done.
How many of these do you propose that we purchase, considering the available funds that can be journaled into? To
So-
our credit?
So I think, so here's what I'm proposing. They priced out for me 2 of them for now, because that's the availability right now, right? So they're getting, this ESO gets this from Unison, right? Unison is the actual, you know, hardware builder, hardware maker.
Right.
And so I asked them, how many could you get me for January, essentially? They said, well, we can get you 2. And so the theory here for, I'm working on is, we would start literally right now with 2, so I could try this in early voting and have a backup in case, you know, God forbid something goes wrong. And then once we get into next year, we can talk to them about, you know, what would we do to phase these in. I would love to have this all done, if we could, by November, right? Minimum, if we can't do it all by November, I would like to take our precincts that are the heaviest, you know, and try and make sure we have them all there. If we have a precinct that's lighter or smaller, less turnout, maybe they'd be the last one to get this, but.
So your proposal then, as I understand it, is that we purchase 2 immediately.
Yeah.
So that we can put them through their paces in a, as it were, a trial.
Yeah.
For the March election.
Right.
And then depending upon how well they work, after we have a chance to review how well they work, then we could conceivably come back and ask city council for additional funds to get more in time for the June primary.
Yeah.
And then see how many more we can get in time for the November. So
Yeah.
basically, you're thinking in terms of staging it over the course
Of
of
the 3
basically
elections.
this and the
Yeah.
next fiscal year.
Correct, yeah, this exactly, this is the next best year. So because we have $100,000, it's possible we could, and that goes through, you know, July, right, to the end of June, right? June 30th is the end of the fiscal year. I would love to, you know, make sure the city council is aware, because, you know, it's not just a matter of just pulling the trigger, you gotta make sure you socialize the plan, which I started with the city manager at that meeting, to absorb as much as we can of that, maybe ask them for a little more for next year, and then see if we can replace the whole plant by, you know, middle of fiscal 2025 or for
Yeah.
the 2024 November election.
I can see training problems.
So that's it. So, okay, so by the way, this is exactly why I think we should stage it, right? Because I can take my second unit and I can actually use it for training up until the time I would need it to. You know, I had a problem with the actual, you know, one that we're using for early voting. So this would get, that's why I would not want to just do 1, right? I'd like to do 2.
Yeah.
So we have a spare that I could use if I had to for early voting, but I would also have the opportunity to use it for training.
I'm in training if everybody doesn't have the same equipment next November.
They would
So-
have to know what precinct they were going to serve at to know which.
It still requires
Yeah.
2 sets of training.
Yeah,
But is there any reason we couldn't do it all at once, basically? What's the price for the entire project?
Well, I mean, basically it's 6,400 per unit, right? So if you multiply that by 20, right? maybe 22.
20. How many spares? I thought you had 4 spares.
Yeah, I think I have 4 spares.
Let's go ahead and price it by 24 and just
Yeah.
see if we get a quantity discount.
Yeah, 6,400. Yeah. I mean, 24 is 153,600.
Sorry, say it.
153,600.
152,000, so more than the 100,000 that we have.
Yeah.
But if we could certainly make a sort of 2/3 down payment on the project this fiscal year, because we have the money, and complete it the next fiscal year.
Yeah.
I would think city council would.
Yeah, that'd be the
Go
argument
for
we
that.
want to make. So the other thing, in terms of training, what I'm told now, I'm always, not skeptical is the wrong word, but only cautiously optimistic. The vendor says, okay, well, everything you know about your existing scanners is going to apply to your new scanners. It's basically going to look the same from a user perspective. I take that with a grain of salt, like Betty does. But clearly they have to be thinking about their whole, inventory in terms of an upgrade path, about how difficult it is for their users, that is our election officers, to actually move from one to another. And the more difficult it is for our election officers, the more difficult it is for them too, because they're getting a lot more calls. So part of my goal is to actually vet that question, is to see, hey, how close is it to our existing thing? How much will we have to change our manuals? No, they insist it's faster, better, easier, but of course, until we actually try it, we don't know for sure, right? So.
Does that $800 training flat fee include training our technicians how to troubleshoot in the field?
What the plan right now is they're gonna come down for LNA testing. And I said, why don't you do this? If we can get agreement to actually, purchase these from you now, because they're coming down on the 15th, if you remember, 15th of January. They're gonna bring that equipment with them. That will be the plan. And then they're gonna train us on using it at that point. We'll do LNA testing on, the new unit for our early voting. And I can certainly invite our technicians in to be a part of that session. Now, it is the 15th, so that was the only date they could do this for us.
That is a holiday,
And the
right?
15th is a holiday. I can maybe, if you would take their training, or I could do something to socialize that. Yeah, Julie has a thought.
Well, potentially, if we're doing our LNA testing on the 15th, most of the time technicians are part of our LNA testing anyway. So we potentially, if we could reach out to them now, they might be able to time.
Now, remember, we're talking about 2 LNA testing sessions, right? So this LNA testing session, the 15th, is for early voting, right? We're gonna have another LNA testing session for the regular thing. So our city technicians will definitely be there for the regular, for the second one, for sure.
And the other thing too is if we only have 2 machines and we train the technicians on the new machines, then it's not stuff in the field anyway. It's all going to be in this office. So they wouldn't necessarily need to be trained on the new machines at that early date.
That's true.
But we would need to have training when we get a batch of them in.
Yeah, well, I remember we're gonna do, obviously, we have to do LNA testing for early voting for the June primary. We have to do LNA testing for regular, distribution for the June primary. So
Okay.
it's not like we have only one shot at this. We're gonna take bites at the apple.
Well, you filled in the information I wanted when I
Yeah.
asked the original question,
Yeah.
so I'm good.
Okay.
So if we could purchase half of the new stuff before the end of the current fiscal year,
Probably
can we
before-
still use our old stuff for the June primary? And also, what happens to all of our old equipment once we do incorporate the new stuff?
So that's a great question. I actually don't know the answer to that question. That question has been kind of bouncing around in my head. This is specialized equipment. I don't know if I could sell it to anybody else.
Wait, they don't want it back?
Yeah,
You
so,
don't recycle?
well, that's a good question, right? So I haven't asked them that question yet. I was working on this particular question, but that was a question in my mind is what happens to the old equipment? City manager asked me that same question. What about the old equipment? You know, or can you get it from somebody locally? I'm like, well, this is specialized equipment and it's, you know, it's only 5, I guess, vendors in the whole state are authorized by the Department of Elections to produce this equipment. I could ask ESO, hey, what do I do with my own equipment? You're gonna give me a disc, you know, I don't know, something, if I give you back the old equipment, you give me that. I'm not sure they're gonna be excited about that idea, but I certainly can float it with them, right? Or see if there's some other way to get some money back on that equipment. Can't hurt to ask.
And
So wait, what was the answer? If we buy half now, can we still use our old equipment? So everybody has the same thing in June, except your office. I guess you'll start it in January and all next year, you will use the new equipment for early voting and
Yeah,
in your
I
office.
mean, we could, I mean, I'm not worried about these ladies, they can do anything.
Yes,
Well,
exactly.
basically, let's say we've got 9 of the old machines out and 9 of the new machines out, plus in the office. All of the machines are going to spit out a tape,
Yeah,
which we manually enter in.
Yeah.
So long as, whether it's the old machine or the new machine, and it's accurately reading the ballots, then it should not make a difference.
That's not my question. My question then is back to the training. Because we had a hard enough time getting people to training this year, and next year we're gonna say, oh, wait, you're from class A, you have to only come to this training. You're from this other group, you come to this training. And so we're gonna either have twice as many training sessions or what?
yeah, that's a good question. I don't know that, until I actually get a chance to, you know, get the manual for this machine and look through it, it's hard for me to vet the vendor's assertion that, oh, it's all gonna be really simple, you know, the transition is easy, you know? Okay, well, I hope that's the case, and I hope you're thinking about your own pain, and that's really true, but until we actually look at it, we will know for sure, right? So, that's a great question. I don't know that I can answer it 100% right now, right?
I would think that I would prefer sticking with the old equipment for June and then taking all summer to train people on the new stuff. Especially because the old stuff was brand new to some people last year. And so now we're gonna turn around with something else brand new. And also, I have a question, the picture, so like when the suitcase thing is shut down,
Sure, we go back.
is it then like latched on the front and then you just pick up that whole top so that
Yeah.
basically you can see the ballots inside? When you remove it?
Well, I think, I mean, just like ours,
It locks like the other one. Do you mind?
yeah, no, go ahead,
So
okay, go ahead,
if you
yeah.
see under like where the blue is under the screen, I know it's really small, but there's 2 spots in the middle. That's where the keys go, just like our current machines.
Zoomed in.
They lock into the bottom as well. Those should be 2 locks. That lock, because it has to be able to lock into the like ballot box, just like our machines do now. So it would lock as well.
I mean, I think just like we do today, right? When we finish up an election, right, you take the machine off and then you open the top of the up, or else you open the back, which you would do here. You have the same kind of situation here. And you take the ballots out. But presumably, you're not taking the machine off until you're
Right.
closed for the night, right?
It's no different than when we take them off now, because you want to get the ballots out of there.
Right.
Put them in envelope sacks.
Yeah. So I don't think it changed our procedure much, if at all.
So basically, now this is still a report. Deciding on what we're going to do about it waits for new business. Okay, I'm good.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, so this is, I'm just making sure I answer all your questions so you feel like you know what you're deciding. Other questions on this? Okay, I would like, I'd like to use, probably, print elect, let me put this in here, actually, I have a typo here. Print elect for the absentee ballot, belonging to this election, just because of the cost difference. it's possible Fort Orange Press will come back and suggest something different, but it seems like it's just too big a gap. I don't think you're gonna go down to $800 setup fee. You really have to do that in order to compete price wise. And because I have other registrars who are happy with that, happy with that offering, getting decent reviews, I think it's worth giving that a shot this time. I also think we should try and do at least 2 units, upgrading from the OVO that we have today to the new FVS. So we'll stop saying OVO, we'll start saying FVS in our new world. And so I'll put that to you for your consideration. And one more thing, just a reminder that we do have LNA testing for the March 5th presidential primary early voting planned for January 15th. Yes, that's a holiday, but that's the day I could get the vendors to come down.
Well, I'm gonna vote against buying those things because it took me 7 years to figure out which one was the OVO. Now I gotta use different initials.
But now I don't know that.
Yeah, that's right. Now, the OVI, we're keeping the OVI. So the OVIs won't change. Nothing there really happens different with them. But these units are supposed to be much faster. And will meet the state's new standards.
And that's big decisions, you know.
We know it.
That's pretty much it for me. That's my report.
Okay. Thank you, Dan.
Yep.
Very informative. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for all the work. So are we ready for new business then? Old business first, do we have any old?
We think we want to talk about, we're going to say, motion we need to vote on closed session.
Do under new business, under 8G.
Okay.
Good, okay. The first item of new business is use of Fort Orange Press for initial mailing of next absentee ballots. You want to change that to elect?
Yeah, that's my recommendation.
Okay. So in the printed agenda, that needs to be
Well,
changed.
Actually, we are contemplating continuing with Fort Orange Press and 6 of one and a half dozen the other, because we looked at Fort Orange Press, found out there's a better option, so we're going to vote against Fort Orange Press and go with a better option. So you can do whatever you want to, but I think 6 of one, half dozen the other.
Okay.
Just trying to say basic work.
For the purpose of simplicity, I'm going to ask for a motion to use print elect for the initial mailing of the next absentee ballot.
I would make that motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it. Motion's adopted. Next item is update on purchase of upgraded ballot scanners, and your recommendation there is that the registrar recommends upgrading 2 OVO units to the new FVS units at this time. Is that
Yeah, that's correct. Yep.
We have a motion to that effect.
Yeah.
So moved. Second.
Second.
Okay.
Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Ayes have it, and the motion is approved. Item C is restarting the PAGE program. Who's going to address that? Julie, who's going to?
So I handed out a packet of Dan did for you guys. It's really simple, but I want you guys to give you information of why I want to restart it, what I want to do, so you know what we're voting on. So I gave a little simple outline of what I'm wanting to do with it, and then I showed you some of my research. So I reached out to a couple of different registrar's offices. Didn't hear back from a few of them, but one of them that I actually had a really good informative conversation with was Loudoun County. And they're coordinating outreach. When she reached out to me, we have an email chain, and she even called me and we had a whole conversation about it. And I asked her some questions of like, simply what does your application look like? Do you have a denial process? Kind of what does the framework of it look like? And that's when she gave me kind of their flyer, and then she also had locked their interest and application form, but she gave me access to it so I can see it. And then I also gave you Fairfax County and Virginia Beach's like public proclamation of what they do, what their website looks like. The rest of the counties, cities that I looked at, kind of all have the exact same thing. They take from the code and kind of just simply slap it on their website. All of their applications and interest forms are very similar to Loudoun County, so that's why I just showed you theirs. But they're closed, so I don't have access to look at them, but Loudoun gives me access. So I can see my thought process is that I kind of want to follow suit with them and keep it simple. So we are required by code to train them as well as have them sign oath. And then most of the students then in the counties and cities are required to have a parent sign permission slip so they are able to do it because all of them are under 18. So I would just like you all's permission to move forward with this and begin to design that process and procedure as well as an application. I'd like to do a interest form on our website, so it's a little bit easier for recruitment, as well as begin to create and design kind of a 1 hour seems to be normal mark for training for them. And then I noticed that some places do a quiz, some places do not, but all of them tend to do 30 minutes to an hour of training on 2 sessions. If they do. So I would like permission from you guys to start this and reach out to all the local high school and student government teachers. That's where I have found they try to specifically target a little bit more generalized. So when I talked to Loudoun Community, she said that instead of just reaching out to the high schools in general, she specifically goes to the student government teachers and has a conversation with them, because that's the pool of students that have the most interest she found, and she's actually able to contact. So I just like permission to.
And why do we want a page program?
So I'm one of my first elections here, and we use a page program at Liberty. And it was really informative process for them, but it helped us a lot in terms of stopping. So certain things that pages are allowed to do that don't have anything to do with election material for people. And coming up in a presidential year, and especially this past election, kind of struggling a little bit with recruitment. Not only would that be an opportunity to teach them about the process and get their involvement now, so that when they do turn 18, we can transfer them into election officers, but it also would help ease some of the workload of things that our election officers don't have as high on their list to focus on in terms of like flow or signage, or especially at the we use that to kind of start our SDR process so that we can hand out forms. These can't handle ballots for machines. So it kind of helped distribute staffing needs a little bit when there was a lack. And they were just really helpful a lot. I also started my process of election work in the page program. Kind of sparked my interest in it.
So the pages serve as sort of assistants and trainees for election officers?
Yeah, so they're not allowed to handle most election materials or equipment, but they can start the checking process. They can activate their IDs, they can check to see if they have them, they can help with lines, they can help handing out paperwork like voter registration forms, or taking people from one place to another, or let us know if there's curbsides. They can be the ones to run it out and say, you know, people can have a cheap turnout, which would help a lot in places that I don't necessarily have the manpower at the moment to have somebody goes back and forth. Train high school kids to keep them on curbsides.
They can handle the, basically most of the greeter positions.
Correct. So we would have
Because they don't have to touch anything. It's basically more of a verbal thing. And they can also do the marking bay officer,
Correct.
keeping the bays clear, make sure to get the right pins in there. Letting an election officer know if there's something that needs attention. So there's a couple of positions. So it could conceivably help us, and it's also a good training ground to try and get some younger election officers who might have the option of getting into it on that side of it.
Right, and it makes up for the fact that we can't have volunteers anymore. Because these are basically volunteers, but they're trained.
Correct.
When you say, we're talking both public and private high schools. Are we allowed to go with homeschoolers?
That's something that I've had a question floating around, and I'm going to do a little more research on that. I don't see differentiation necessarily. So I'm gonna try to reach out to their docs to see what they feel about that, or if they do use them. I'm not quite sure if it falls in or if it doesn't. I don't see why not.
They could do it in Richmond, Capital Line. I remember
Yeah.
school programs where they could go and be.
I think as long as they're trained and we have permission slips, and they're under the age of 18, that is kind of the biggest requirement.
So if we have a high school student who turns 18, let's say, for example, you've got a high school senior who turned 18 yesterday, they would no longer be eligible for the PAGE program.
But they can be an election officer.
Okay,
They're now a voter, potentially.
potentially.
And that was what I saw in a couple different places, I don't know, reading some materials, is if a high school student is 18, they encourage them to apply as election officer. Or if they have a recent birthday, then they reach out to them and they encourage them. Hey, we still would like to use you, and now we can use you in a different capacity.
Okay.
No, I like the idea, because it starts to make them aware even of what's going on with voting and now they can be involved.
We would just,
We need some young blood involved in elections, don't we?
Yes, you do.
and I'm just thinking in terms of another hour of training.
But I am signing up to do that. So
Okay.
I am introducing this to you full of knowing well that most likely will be
Okay.
required.
Okay, which is perfectly fine. And frankly, I see no reason why they can't also do that online election officer training as part of their training. You give them that in another half hour, 45 minutes in person, and to localize what they get from the statewide. I see that as a good learning experience.
Okay, we ready to vote?
Yes.
Have a motion?
Well, I think the motion is to allow Julie to pursue setting up a PAGE program the earliest possible, for the soonest possible election.
And by that you mean, like contacting the schools and doing that?
Well, I have a like draft of a timeline for you that I would like to have it in motion and start it for the March 5th.
Okay.
Okay. Just in thinking about what I just said, does that approve the reinstatement of the PAGE program? The wording that I used, or do I need to word it differently?
Did we ever have a PAGE program?
So yes and no. There was a PAGE program, it was utilized, and then it was not utilized, did not exist. And then pages were used at one specific precinct for one election, which didn't necessarily follow codes. I would like to bring it back to use for all locality precincts that we have and just start the program formally. So there's a process, procedure, application.
My motion then is that we reinstate the PAGE program and that we assign Julie to take the lead on developing the training and the organization necessary for that PAGE program.
To make it citywide.
Citywide PAGE program.
Second,
Second.
is there any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it, motion's adopted. Thank you, Julie.
And just remember, you asked for it.
Oh, I did. I'm very excited about this. It was how I got into elections, so it's a small passion project.
Enthusiasm is an awful lot done.
Yes, yes, it is.
Thank you for coming. Our next item on the agenda regards appointment of additional election officers. In our last meeting, we did vote to extend, to invite most of our election officers to be reappointed for the coming year because we have such a busy and early election calendar next year. And accepted from that approval in the last meeting were 5 election officers with which we wanted to have further interaction and conversation. The board met in executive session at 2 p.m. today, and we are ready to extend offer reappointment to 4 of those officers. And for the 5th one, we would like to have more interaction, and we're going to invite that. So I'm going to ask for a motion right now then is to extend the appointments. Reappointment is we calling it? No, extended, I'm sorry.
Extended appointment.
Yeah, we are calling extended appointment to the 4 officers that I just described. And Dan, you have those
I have the names, yes,
names available, so
I do.
the parties, our party reps could have.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, any other discussion about?
There was a caveat, 3 of them should have additional training.
Yes. Okay.
So one of the individuals extended with no caveats, and 3 extended with additional training. And then the final one, we need to communicate with at a more extensive level.
Yes. Okay.
And I'll make the motion that we do that.
Second.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it, the motion's approved. Thank you for that. We're now on to the public comment part of the agenda, and do we have any public comments? Jeff?
I have one, well, actually 2 questions. There was an item on the city council agenda, I believe it was not the last meeting, but the one before, about approving some money for security and also some work on the counter in the registrar's office. And I just wanted to ask if that was approved. And the other question is, does it include anything that would allow for more room in the lobby, like moving the counter back or whatever could? Because as we know, for early voting, particularly the lobby in the registrar's office can get quite crowded.
Dan, do you want to answer that?
Sure.
Do we want to finish public comment before we answer?
Okay, I didn't say, I only saw one hand go up, so.
I didn't have a chance to get mine up.
Okay.
But I
Okay,
do
let's,
have-
thank you, Steve, yes, okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Jeff, thank you very much. Brenda, do you have any comment?
I just want to find out about the restoration of rights. Did we have any in Lynchburg? I want to put a closure on the question that I'm being asked. Did they close people's rights? And I want to be able to say, this is what I was told.
Okay, your question was, were any potential voters in Lynchburg who've been unable to vote because of a felony conviction, have any been restored
Yes.
in
that's
the
my
last
question.
year or?
Right.
Okay,
Does this question have to do with the fact that some people were inadvertently put back on the non-voting
Yes.
list, and were they corrected? So
Yes.
basically it's a 2-part question, as I understand it.
That's right.
Okay.
Mr. Troxel, you got it.
okay.
I
Glad
had,
somebody understands it. Good.
I had clarity from, Ms. Davis and Ms. Pence. Okay, I didn't talk to Julie about it, but I talked to those 2 about it. Because we were getting hammered with people saying that they couldn't vote, you know, but they served their time. So I need clarity on that.
Okay, thank you for raising that question. Dan, I'm going to refer to you for both
Sure.
these.
So to Jeff's question first, so I talked to Piper Van Pierre, I can't remember the last name, anyway. She was the one who actually put the whole application together. And as far as I understand, the process is the city council had to vote to accept the funds, right? So we got approved by the state or by the Department of Homeland Security, that's what I'm trying to say. And so we got that, that's good. But then the city has to approve, yeah, we're gonna take the funds. And then I talked to Piper, and what she said was, well, okay, that's great, but now I have to go fill out a whole bunch more paperwork to go actually, get the funds. And one of the questions I asked her was, well, do we have to use certain vendors, or how does it all work? And she said, I honestly don't know. I have to go, find out some more about this. So I'm still in conversation with her. There was two parts, like you mentioned, too. One was security cameras, and the second was improving security of the counter. I share your thoughts around the counter being, there and not having a whole lot of space out in front of it. I would have to work with the city to figure out if we really could move the counter. Any space you get back in the front, you lose from behind it, right? So it's a bit of a catch-22. And as Brenda will attest, there were times when we had plenty of people behind the counter doing a bunch of work too. So we have to think about that. So the answer is, unfortunately, I don't know the answer about moving the counter. But included in that was supposedly a portion to improve security of the counter. I have to say, personally, I'm not super excited about putting a big glass wall in front of the counter, because there's a couple pieces. One is, I think for early voting, it's going to make it more difficult. And certainly I'm concerned about authorized representatives, right? So we tried to rejigger our setup a little bit so authorized representatives could be closer to the person who's talking to the voter, right? Put chairs, we try to get a little closer without getting it so you can see the screens, right? That was the dilemma, was we don't want to be able to be, not to see the screen, but to be able to hear what's going on. And as you remember before, we actually had the authorized representatives on the other side of the counter, and they were off on the side, and it was hard for them to hear. We tried to improve that this year by putting them on the other side of the counter. If we put a big glass barrier up there, that might also become a problem. And also, if we move the counter, that may or may not help us either. So we have to think about all these things to try and meet all these different criteria that we're trying to hit. But I can certainly come back. I think at some point, once I hear back from Piper or have more conversation with her about what the steps that she has to take in terms of refilling the paperwork, I will put that back in my registrar's report and kind of bring that back to the public to let people know what's going on with that. Does that answer your question mostly? Okay. As far as the felon restoration of rights, so my understanding of what happened was there was a erroneous data blob or feed that came from the state police that went into the state system and told the state system, oh, these people are, need to have their rights need to be taken off the list of voters because they have a felony. And this was a mistake. This was wrong. It was an error, erroneous. And then the Department of Elections heard about this, and the governor heard about this, and everyone was kind of up in arms. And so they said, well, we got to go fix this right away. So we got, notification from the state to go and actually move on this pretty quickly so they could, because they wanted to clean it up too. So I did ask Nancy to kind of be my point person on this.
She did.
And I know she was working actively, because I remember the state would call and they'd be like, oh, you want to talk to me? No, we don't want to talk to you. We want to talk to Nancy. So put Nancy on the phone, and she worked with
Conrad.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that was an active process. And I don't remember the exact numbers of people. I don't know if you remember numbers off the top of your head. We could probably go gather that if that's helpful to you, if that's interesting to you. But Maybe you want to speak to the process in general.
Basically, the ones that were, on that list, they have all been processed and back in the system and where they needed to be, in their locality. Anyone that has come to you and said their rights have not been restored or anything of the such, please tell them to come to me, call me. I can see what I can do and find out what's going on. There's a lot of play in there, that could be holding them up. So that could be another possibility. But please tell them to come and see me or Julie, so that way we can tag team and see what's going on. But with the restoration of rights, there is a whole lot of logistics to it, so it's just a matter of the ones that were in there, they have been processed and they are now back in their actual locality. Now, to say for that, the addresses, that's another possibility. They have not gotten to them, so they need to update. So please tell them to update their registration. That is another thing that we are coming into, that I'm coming into, where things have gone out, it's coming back to me. And I need phone numbers. Phone numbers would be great. Because that's the only way that I can actually contact them if something comes back. The more I know, the better I can actually get to the voter. Without them walking in, telling me, bringing them, if they tell me their restoration rights and they have that confirmation from the Commonwealth, tell them to bring me that and I can make a copy of that and put it in their record and we can start fresh. So, yes. So anyone.
Okay, you haven't answered my question, but so often here lately, the newspaper just runs with things without getting all the facts, and say, I'm a fact person. I don't want to look you in the eye, and y'all had told me this, but we still getting calls. So now I'm going to tell them, call Nancy.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
if you can't reach her, call Julie.
Absolutely.
And if you can't reach them, call me. It's fine.
You're the last
It's all
one.
good. It's
We're
all
gonna
fine.
start with these two, 'cause I know them, okay?
Yeah.
And the last person I will probably say is to contact the state Commonwealth.
Okay,
That's their, another go-to that they need to contact.
okay.
Because once it's out of our hands, we have to send it directly to them.
Okay.
And there is a website for the restoration of what
Yeah.
rights, right?
And I
So,
gave that to you.
Yeah.
I got that,
So
and I got the number too,
yeah,
but
Tell
they
them.
still going with the newspaper clipping.
yeah.
That deals with something else.
And the other thing that Nancy said, I don't know if it caught it, but one of the problems that we have is that sometimes someone might be out there and we don't have a good contact information for them.
Yes, I
So-
got that down.
Yeah, so
Contact
if
information.
we don't know where they're at, we might send them a letter and then it just comes back to us, like she says, it gets undeliverable. So if they feel like, something's not happening right, first thing they could do is contact Nancy and say, hey, by the way, I want to make sure my voter registration information is up to date. And then that, there's a bunch of different ways to do that, but, Nancy will work with them, we can make sure that that's done. And then anything that happens, now it goes to them, they'll see it, we send them, they'll see, and they can call us or whatever, so.
Okay, will do. And we are proposing for 2024, we're going to have voters' education. They need to be educated, So often, they don't want to learn, and we're going to, I hope, pray, Lord, that we're going to teach them these steps, and what you need to do to be a registered voter. If you don't have an ID, go get your ID, And if you don't have that, we're gonna give them a list. Look at the list.
Yeah.
We're gonna have voters education at one of the centers so that we can educate the community of what you need.
Well, let us know how we can help you with that.
Oh, I will, don't worry about it.
I'm not worried about it.
Yeah, you're not supposed to worry, but trust it.
Yeah, I'm just offering our help to your efforts.
And we
because
go,
it's a
we
great,
gonna call on you,
good.
because we need it. Education is the tool. And I'm so proud of you, Julie, that you're gonna start this program, and educate people. Because knowledge is something that people, you can't take it away once you get it up there. But you gotta educate them from the bottom up. You got so many that came in the office, they wanted up top, you know. No, you gotta start down here. Okay, that's my spiel and I'm sticking by it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Is it an accurate statement to say that all of the information that we have gotten concerning reinstatement of rights, we have followed up as best we are able to do with the information that we've been given?
That's right. Yes, that's
Okay,
a good
so-
statement.
So if they still have an issue, they need to provide our office
Yeah.
with more information so that we can do what's right for them, but they need to help us do it.
Right. That's an accurate statement. And see, that statement needs to go to the community. That says a lot. Okay?
Why don't you go fuss at the newspaper and ask them to get their stories right, because they'll listen to you.
No, I'm working with one of the reporters, Emily. She comes to the council meeting and she comes to the NAACP. I'm working on getting the right information out there, you know. And I was hoping that this office would have put something out there that we have done our part, you know, to let the community know, you know, we've done our part.
Yeah, we were unaware that that information needed to be, we didn't realize there was a communication gap here.
Yeah, it is,
Okay.
because they listen to what the governor said, you know.
Yeah.
And he didn't have his facts right, because he should have went to the state police and questioned them before he made that grand statement.
I'm going to encourage both of you to continue this conversation after the meeting's over with.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right,
But I think we concluded our business for today. And I'm
No.
sure, thank you for raising it.
all right.
Okay.
And Jeff will leave. I think they said, tell us we gotta leave.
I think we're done.
No,
That's
he
all.
wants to.
We're gonna leave.
He
And
wants to.
so I'd like to adjourn the meeting, and you and Steve are free to talk as long as you want to talk.
Okay,
We can.
Okay, I know you will.
yes.
That or we've completed one of the two.
All right, good, okay, thank you.
Thank
Is there any
y'all.
other business for us today? Okay, then we're adjourned.
Happy holidays.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
That's right.